Cantos 42 to 46 of Book 5 of the Ramayana of Valmiki, translated by Ralph D. H. Griffith. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Recording by Om123. Canto 42. The Giant's Roost. The cries of startled birds, the sound of tall trees crashing to the ground, struck with amaze each giant's ear, and filled the isle with sudden fear. Then, wakened by the crash and cries, the fierce she-fiends unclosed their eyes, and saw the banner where he stood amid the devastated wood. The more to scare them with the view, to size immense the banner grew, and straight the Rakshas warriors cried, Janak's daughter terrified, "Whose envoy, whence, and who is he? Why has he come to talk with thee? Speak, lady of the lovely eyes, and let not fear thy joy disguise." Then thus replied the metal dame, of noble soul and perfect frame, "Can I discern with scanty skill these fiends who change their forms at will? It is yours to say, your kind you meet, a serpent knows a serpent's feet. I wit not who is he, the sight has filled my spirit with affright." Some pressed round Sita in a ring, some bore the story to their king. "A mighty creature of our race, in monkey form, has reached the place. He came within the grove," they cried. "He stood and talked by Sita's side. He comes from Indra's court to her, or is Kubera's messenger, or Ram has sent the spy to seek his consort and her wrongs to wreak. His crushing arm, his trampling feet, have marred and spoiled that dear retreat, and all the pleasant place which thou so lovest is a ruin now. The tree where Sita sat alone is spared where all are overthrown. Perchance he saved the dame from harm, perchance the toil had numbed his arm." Then flashed the giant's eye with fire, like that which lights the funeral pyre. He bade his bravest kinkers speed, and to his feet the spoiler lead. Forth from the palace, at his hest, twice 40,000 warriors pressed, burning for battle, strong and fierce, with clubs to crush and swords to pierce. They saw Hanuman near a porch, and, thick as moths around a torch, rushed on the foe with wild attacks of mace and club and battle-axe. As round him pressed the Rakshas crowd, the wondrous monkey roared aloud. Then birds fell headlong from the sky. Then spake he with a mighty cry, "Long life to Dasaratha's heir, and Lakshman ever glorious pair! Long life to him who rules our race, preserved by noblest Rama's grace! I am the slave of Kaushal's king, whose wondrous deeds the minstrels sing. Hanuman I, the wind god's seed, beneath this arm the foemen bleed. I fear not, unapproached in might, 1,000 Ravans ranged for fight. Although in furious hands they rear the hill and tree for sword and spear, I will, before the giants' eyes, their city and their king chastise, and, having communed with the dame, depart in triumph as I came." At that terrific roar and yell, the heart of every giant fell. But still their king's command they feared, and pressed around with arms upreared. Beside the porch a club was laid, the banner caught it up and swayed. The weapon round his head and slew the foremost of the Rakshas crew. Thus Indra vanquished, thousand-eyed, the Daityas who the gods defied. Then on the porch Hanuman sprang, and loud his shout of triumph rang. The giants looked upon the dead, and turning to their monarch fled. And Ravan with his spirit wrought, to frenzy by the tail they brought, ours to the fight Brahesta's son, of all his chiefs the mightiest one. Canto 43. The Ruin of the Temple. The wind god's son a temple scaled, which by his fury unassailed, high as the hill of Meru stood, amid the ruins of the wood, and in his fury thundered out again his haughty battle shout. I am the slave of Koshal's king, whose wondrous deeds the minstrels sing. Forth hurried, by that shout alarmed, the warders of the temple armed, with every weapon haste supplied, and closed him in on every side. With bands that strove to pierce and strike, with shaft and axe and club and pike, then from its base the banner tore, a pillar with the weight it bore. Against the wall the mass he dashed, and forth the flames in answer flashed, that wildly ran over roofs and wall, in hungry rays consuming all. He whirled the pillar round his head, and struck 100 giants dead. Then high upheld on air he rose, and called in thunder to his foes. 1,000 banner chiefs like me roam at their will over land and sea. Terrific might we all possess, our stormy speed is limitless. And all, unconquered in the fray, our King Sugriva's word obey. Backed by his bravest myriads he, our warrior lord, will cross the sea. Then Lanka's lofty towers and all your hosts and Ravan's self shall fall. None shall be left unslaughtered, none, who braves the wrath of Raghu's son. Canto 44. Jambumali's Death. Then Jambumali, pride and boast, for valour of the Rakshas host, Prahasta's son supremely brave, obeyed the hest that Ravan gave. Fierce warrior with terrific teeth, with sanguine robes and brilliant wreath, a bow like Indra's own, and store of glittering shafts the chieftain bore. And ever as the string he tried, the weapon with a roar replied, loud as the crashing thunder sent by him who rules the firmament. Soon as the foeman came in view, borne on a car which asses drew, the banner chieftain mighty voiced shouted in triumph and rejoiced. Prahasta's son his bowstring drew, and swift the winged arrows flew. One in the face the banner smote, another quivered in his throat. 10 from the deadly weapon sent, his brawny arms and shoulders rent. Then as he felt each galling shot, the banner's rays waxed fiercely hot. He looked, and saw a mass of stone that lay before his feet overthrown. The mighty block he raised and threw, and crashing through the air it flew. But Jambumali shunned the blow, and rained fresh arrows from his bow. The banner's limbs were red with gore, a psaltery from the art he tore, and ere he hurled it undismayed, above his head the missile swayed. But shafts from Jambumali's bow cut through it ere his hand could throw, and thigh and arm and chest and side with streams of rushing blood were dyed. Still unsubdued, though wounded oft, the shattered trunk he raised aloft, and down with well-directed aim on Jambumali's chest it came. There, crushed upon the trampled grass, he lay an undistinguished mass. The foeman's eye no more could see his head or chest or arm or knee, and bow and car and steeds and store of glittering shafts were seen no more. When Jambumali's death he heard, King Ravan's heart with rage was stirred, and forth his general sons he sent, for power and might preeminent. Canto 45. The 7 Defeated. Forth went the 7 in brave attire, in glory brilliant as the fire, impetuous chiefs with massive bows, the quellers of a host of foes. Trained from their youth in martial lore, and masters of the arms they bore, each emulous and fiercely bold, and banners wrought with glittering gold, waved over their chariots drawn at speed by coursers of the noblest breed. On through the ruins of the grove at Hanuman they fiercely drove, and from the ponderous bows they strained, a shower of deadly arrows rained. Then scarce was seen the banner's form, enveloped in the arrowy storm. So stands half-veiled the mountain's king, when rainy clouds about him cling. By nimble turn, by rapid bound, he shunned the shafts that rained around, eluding as in air he rose the rushing chariots of his foes. The mighty banner undismayed amid his archer foemen played, as plays the frolic wind on high, mid bow-armed clouds that fill the sky. He raised a mighty roar and yell, that fear on all the army fell, and then his warrior soul aglow with fury rushed upon the foe. Some with his open hand he beat to death and trampled with his feet. Some with fierce nails he rent and slew, and others with his fists overthrew. Some with his legs as on he rushed, some with his bulky chest he crushed, while some struck senseless by his roar, dropped on the ground and breathed no more. The remnant, seized with sudden dread, torn from the grove and wildly fled. The trampled earth was thickly strewn with steed and car and flag overthrown, and the red blood in rivers flowed from slaughtered fiends over path and road. Canto 46. The Captains. Mad with the rage of injured pride, King Ravan summoned to his side the valiant five who led his host, supreme in war and honoured most. "Go forth," he cried, "with car and steed, and to my feet this monkey lead. But watch each chance of time and place to seize this thing of sylvan race. For from his wondrous exploits he no monkey of the woods can be, but some new kind of creature meant to work us woe by Indra sent. Gandharvas, Nagas, and the best of Yakshas have our might confessed. Have we not challenged and subdued the whole celestial multitude? Yet will you not, if you are wise, a chief of monkey race despise. For I myself have Bali known, and King Sugriva's power I own. But none of all their woodland throng was half so terrible and strong." Obedient to the words he spake, they hastened forth the foe to take. Swift were the cars whereon they rode, and bright their weapons flashed and glowed. They saw they charged in wild career, with sword and mace and axe and spear. From Durdhar's bow 5 arrows sped, and quivered in the banner's head. He rose and roared, the fearful sound made all the region echo round. Then from above his weight he threw on Durdhar's car that near him drew. The weight that came with lightning speed crushed pole and axle, car and steed. It shattered Durdhar's head and neck, and left him lifeless mid the wreck. Yupaksha saw the warrior die, and Virupaksha heard his cry, and, mad for vengeance for the slain, they chose their banner foe again. He rose in air, they onward pressed, and fiercely smote him on the breast. In vain they struck his iron frame, with eagle swoop to earth he came, tore from the ground a tree that grew beside him, and the demon slew. Then Vashkama raised his spear, and Pragas with a laugh drew near, and, maddened at the sight, the two against the undaunted banner flew. As from his wounds the torrents flowed, like a red sun the banner showed. He turned a mountain peak to seize, with all its beasts and snakes and trees. He hurled it on the pair, and they, crushed, overwhelmed, beneath it lay. End of Cantos 42 to 46.